Many imagine video game companies as small garage basement type companies full of geeks who live and breathe games. In reality, gaming is a business. In fact, it's a very large industry, and like other industries, it's succumbing to the same pitfalls and problems that plague IT and big business in general. Looking at gaming's problems is a good window into some of the broader problems that companies face. Gaming in Trouble: The Bungling of IT, Part 1. Welcome to Into the Desert, exploring the wilderness of ideas. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button, and if you want to support our channel and our mission of encouraging discussion and not division, please join us on Patreon. The link is in the description. Elgin, I know you're a big gamer and you like to talk a lot about games, and as much as I enjoy playing, I'm not a big gamer, mostly because I don't have time. But I do kind of keep up on some of the big things, and I saw that Microsoft is talking about laying off like 9,000 employees, and a lot of them are in their Xbox division. How big of a deal is this?
Well, I'm not a big gamer. There are many gamers that are much more devoted and focused than I am. But yeah, I am a gamer, and it's a big deal. I mean, it's not just Xbox. There's a lot of companies that have had layoffs over the last several years in the gaming industry. And the gaming industry is not a small industry. According to Forbes, if you were to take the entire movie industry and the entire music industry, put them together, you're still not as big as the gaming industry. It is actually humongous. It's just tremendous in size. And the gaming industry is struggling, like all industries do from time to time. And like I said, it's not limited to Xbox, and it's in many respects, it's not too surprising because the problems they're having are the same problems that a lot of other companies are having trying to manage this new thing called IT, because IT's only been around in my lifetime. I started out in the early days of IT, and I was lucky enough to finish my career
You
in
mean back when
IT.
dinosaurs roamed the planet?
Not quite that far back, close, but not quite. Um, but yeah, it's been along. I mean, when I went to college, we actually had to connect to a computer across town because our college couldn't afford their own computer for running BASIC, and our connection speed was really fast. It was 9600 baud, which today, we're talking billions of bits per second. We were happy with 9600. So it's quite a while back, but it's grown. And with those growth of that industry, like all industries, it has growing pains, and you're seeing that right now in gaming. Part of the problem is that there are some things unique to gaming that they put in. They were basically putting in a lot of mechanics to generate money rather than to generate gameplay. Things like loot boxes, which were basically introducing gambling into gaming. So rather than going and buy the game and go home and play it, which is what the kind of old model was, they tried a whole bunch of new things just to get you to buy the game and then get you to give them money over and over later on. Things like loot boxes, things like pay to play, where you unlocked parts of the game if you paid additional money, or if you were got a better weapon or better armor, so you could actually defeat other players if you wanted to buy it separately, and that's called pay to play. Or they would do other factors like release games that were not quite finished yet, and then get money, and then they sell it again. They were putting on server-based games, which were required you to log on to a server. You couldn't just buy the game and play it. You had to log on to a server, and then they could track what you were doing while you're playing. And if the server went down, you couldn't play. So things that benefited the company but didn't benefit the players themselves, and the players got very upset with that. Basically, their problem was they were focusing on profit, not on their customers. And a total focus on profit is always a problem.
Yeah, but that's not unique to gaming. I mean,
No.
pretty much every industry well, not every industry, but at least from a big business perspective, it seems like all they care about is the profit. And it's not really about the customer anymore. It's about that profit, that bottom line.
Yeah, but this is what I call the business paradox, which because the purpose of any business is to make money. If you don't make money, you don't stay in business. But any business that focuses on profit solely will go out of business because nobody likes to go to a company whose main purpose is for them to take your money. They're trying to provide you a service. They have to compete for the customer. And it's that paradox that money is why they're there, but they get the money by focusing and servicing the customer needs. That is the business paradox that companies lose sight of it, and then they have troubles.
And there's all of that. I mean, we all have an example of a company that we hate doing business with, but we have to. And we hate doing business because we feel like we're a number. We feel like we're not valued to them.
Yeah, you see this with consolidations, where I remember back in the '90s, I really struggled to find a good bank. I find a bank, I liked the bank, they were doing things, they made it easy for me, and then some big bank would come in and buy them out. And I didn't like the way the big bank did it, so I moved to another bank. And then they would get bought out, and I moved to another bank. Literally, I went through 3 or 4 banks trying to find banks that would actually do what I want. And I was happy with the smaller ones, but the more happy I was, the more likely they get bought out by a big one. You see this in a lot of industries where companies grow not because they provide a better service, they grow because they're big enough to buy the companies that are successful. And I think that's anti-capitalistic because the whole purpose of capitalism, as we did in one of our videos, is capitalism is choice and competition. And the more choice and the more competition, the more capitalism. And when you have these big corporations that are buying things out, they're actually removing choice from the customer and diminishing competition. That is not capitalism.
Yeah. And, from a tech side, a lot of this is focused around the bank, the financial, the insurance industries. And it started with the banks, exactly what you're talking about, this buying up the smaller banks because we can offer the better services. We have a larger footprint so we can do more for you. And then it moved on to the credit unions. And I used to actually work for a credit union administration company. And one of the biggest issues was there used to be hundreds of thousands of credit unions. And now we're down to like 5,000 and then 3,000. They keep getting smaller because these small mom and pop credit unions can't keep up with the technology. So they're being bought out by larger credit unions. So you have these monstrous credit unions, and it's not here's the credit union for teachers and here's the credit union for the steel workers. It's here's a credit union and anybody can join it, but we're now being bought out by bigger credit unions and bigger credit unions. And then fintech is the same thing. And a lot of this is a financial technology companies that really are basically, I'm going to offer this one little financial niche thing. Like there was this thing called safety net, which was like, you give us a little bit of money, and if you get laid off, then we'll kind of supplement your income for a while. And they kind of sort of get built up, and then a larger company comes and buys them out. And there's hundreds of these, and it's an entire industry of these little niche products that are just good enough to be bought out by a bigger company, like people did with the .com, right? They would buy up all of these .com names just so someone would buy the name from them for a bigger profit. And now we're even seeing this in the insurance side of things. So there was an article the other day that Delta Dental is buying out dentist offices. And so they're going to be doing the, patient care all the way through the insurance administration. So we're creating now larger and larger companies that are doing everything, and there's no accountability now. There's nobody saying, hey, wait, are you doing this for profit or are you doing this for me? Do I need the root canal? Do I need, this financial product?
These are the problems of consolidation because bigger is not necessarily better. I mean, obviously, if you're the CEO, it's better because you get to run a bigger company. But for the customers, it's not better because by definition, the larger the company, the more distance there is between the customer and the running of the company, the top level executives or CEO. And so you get these really, really large companies, they have no idea what their customers actually want, except through maybe by buying surveys or something like that. That's not the same level of customer service, which is why I kept looking for banks, because the big banks would buy out the small banks thinking they were, look at these people, they're attracting all this business. But what they did is they changed the business model to the one that I had already rejected. So you see this in the gaming as well. They're consolidating a lot. They're buying out all these studios and forming one big, large conglomeration of work. But then what do? They start getting rid of a lot of studios. So you see, not only is Xbox laying off 9,000 people, but they're also closing a whole bunch of studios. This is the net effect of consolidation, because how can you compete with yourself? So you have all these different studios, how do you compete? And you don't have, they think, oh, this is capitalism action. No, it's not, because capitalism is choice and competition. If you're reducing choice and reducing competition, you're not expanding capitalism. You're reducing capitalism.
Do you agree with our analysis? What did we miss? Is gaming being ruined by consolidation? Do gaming companies focus too much on profit and ignore their customers? Are these problems limited to gaming, IT, or business in general? We'd love to read your comments and reply to many. And if you've made it this far in the video, please consider watching one of our other videos and supporting our channel on Patreon. Thank you again for watching Into the Desert, exploring the wilderness of ideas.